The rain had started without warning. Mark Carter tightened his grip on his daughter's small hand as they hurried down the sidewalk, weaving through evening foot traffic. 8-year-old Lily skipped beside him, her backpack bouncing lightly against her shoulders, humming a tune from school. "Daddy, can we get noodles?" she asked, looking up with hopeful eyes. He smiled despite the fatigue pressing behind his temples. "If we make it before the rain turns into a storm." Life hadn't been easy since Lily's mother passed away 3 years ago. Mark worked long shifts as a warehouse supervisor, balancing overtime with school pickups, packed lunches, and bedtime stories. Every day was a careful juggling act. Every night, he fell asleep wondering if he was doing enough. They turned onto a quieter side street, one he usually avoided after dark, but the rain had driven them off their usual route. That's when Mark noticed raised voices. 3 men stood near the entrance of a closed convenience store. Between them was a young woman, pressed against the wall, her arms wrapped tightly around herself. Her eyes darted from face to face, panic written across every line of her expression. Mark slowed. Lily felt it immediately. "Daddy." He squeezed her hand gently. "Stay right here, sweetheart." He stepped forward, keeping his voice calm but firm. "Hey, is there a problem?" One of the men turned, sneering. "Mind your business." The woman tried to slip past them, but another man blocked her path. Mark felt something snap inside him. He wasn't a fighter. He hadn't been in a real confrontation since high school. His body was tired, his joints stiff from long hours of labor. But in that moment, instinct took over. He placed himself between the men and the woman. "That's enough," he said quietly. The tallest of the 3 laughed. "Or what?" Mark didn't raise his voice. He didn't puff out his chest. He simply stood his ground. "You're going to step back right now." Something in his tone made them hesitate. Maybe it was the way his jaw tightened. Maybe it was the cold steadiness in his eyes. Or maybe it was the fact that Lily had walked up beside him, clutching his jacket. The men glanced at the child. One of them muttered, "Forget it," and took a step away. The others followed. Within seconds, they disappeared down the street, their laughter swallowed by the rain. The woman slid down the wall, shaking. Mark crouched beside her. "Are you okay?" She nodded, tears streaming freely now. I think so, thank you." He offered his hand and helped her stand. Lily stepped forward. "Are you hurt, miss?" The woman managed a small smile. "No, thanks to your dad." Her name was Emily. She explained that she just moved to the city for a new job and had taken a wrong turn while trying to find her apartment. The men had started following her 2 blocks back. Mark insisted on walking her home. Her place was only a few streets away. Along the way, Lily chatted nonstop, telling Emily about her favorite teacher, her stuffed rabbit, and how her dad made the best grilled cheese in the world. Emily listened, still visibly shaken but grateful. At her building entrance, she turned to Mark. "I don't even know how to thank you." He shrugged. "You don't have to." She hesitated. "Can I at least get your name?" "Mark, and this is Lily." Emily nodded. "I won't forget this." Mark didn't think much of it afterward. He took Lily to get noodles. They went home. He helped her with homework, tucked her into bed, and collapsed onto the couch like he did every night. To him, it had been simple. Someone needed help. So he helped. 2 days later, Mark was called into his manager's office. He assumed it was about overtime schedules. Instead, a woman in a tailored blazer stood beside the desk. She turned. It was Emily. Mark froze. "Mr. Carter," his manager said awkwardly, "this is Ms. Emily Harper. She's with corporate." Emily smiled warmly. "Actually, I'm the new regional operations director." Mark blinked. She explained that the company Mark worked for owned several warehouses in the area. She had started her position that same week and had been visiting facilities unannounced to understand daily operations. After the meeting, Emily asked if she could speak to Mark privately. They stood near the loading docks. "I've been thinking about that night," she said. "You didn't know who I was. You didn't know if those men were dangerous. You still stepped in." Mark shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have." She shook her head. "No, not everyone would." Over the next few weeks, Emily made it a point to talk with Mark whenever she visited the warehouse. She asked about Lily, about his schedule, about how he managed everything on his own. Eventually, she learned the truth: how Mark had turned down promotions because they required travel, how he worked extra shifts to afford Lily's tutoring, how he sometimes skipped meals so his daughter could attend school field trips. One afternoon, Emily called him into her office. She slid a folder across the desk. Inside was a promotion offer, a management position with flexible hours, better pay, and remote options. Mark stared at it in disbelief. "I don't understand." Emily met his eyes. "You showed leadership when it mattered, not because it was your job, because it was who you are." He swallowed hard. "But that's not all," she continued. "We're also launching a safety initiative across all our locations. I want you involved in training staff on conflict de-escalation and community awareness." Mark's voice cracked. "Thank you." Emily smiled softly. "Thank you for reminding me why people matter more than titles." Life began to change. Mark moved into a better apartment closer to Lily's school. He stopped working double shifts. He started attending parent-teacher meetings without rushing. He learned how to cook more than grilled cheese. Emily became a regular part of their lives, not just professionally. She joined them for dinner sometimes, helped Lily with math, listened to Mark talk about his late wife and the fear that he wasn't enough. Months passed. One evening, as Mark watched Lily and Emily laughing over a board game, he realized something quietly profound. That night in the rain hadn't just protected a stranger. It had redirected all their futures. Years later, Lily would tell people the story of how her dad stood up to 3 men without throwing a single punch. She would say he didn't look like a hero. He looked tired. He wore work boots. He carried groceries in one hand and held hers in the other. But he stepped forward anyway. And sometimes that's all it takes.